Welcome back to the Magic the Gathering Online Speculation, Economics, and Finance Show. We're going to be covering some interesting takes for today on a card you might want to look at, talk a little bit about the metagame. We're going to talk about where things are going, what you should be paying attention to. We're also going to go into one of our new segments we're introducing today, which is we're going to show you a gem of the week, which is a resource out there that you should be aware of if you're not already. And just for fun, we're going to go ahead and kick off the show with that particular resource. So, some of you out there may or may not be familiar with the big online bots. And if you're not familiar with the big online bots and you're going to be doing anything in the world of Magic the Gathering Online, you need to be familiar. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that most of you know this, and I'm going to go through it pretty quick. We've got CardBot, we've got Magic the Gathering Online or MTGO traders, we've got Card Hoarder and Goat bots. Then we're going to round it out with the MTGO library. And of course wiki price on there. This is a whole bunch of different bots that use the MTGO library bot engine, and all the information is aggregated. So you can go to wiki price on the MTGO library bot site, and it's going to take you where you can search for a card. In this case I've searched for Preordain. It's going to show you a whole bunch of different bots and their prices for buying and selling on there. Anyway, more specifically, what I want to show you guys today is the state of the program, which is done by Pete Jan. It's on Pure MTGO. This is affiliated with and sponsored by MTGO traders. One of the problems with Magic the Gathering Online is trying to find somewhere where there's an aggregation of all the information that you need is really like pulling teeth. It's terrible. God bless WotC, but they don't really do a great job of making it easy to keep up with all the information as far as stuff that's going on. And each week Pete Jan that is, does a really good job of just kind of bringing everything together, making it easy for you to get a snapshot of all the stuff that's going on. And you can see here in his last article he's covered a lot of stuff as far as what's going on, program announcements, some of the flashback stuff that's going on, timetables for set redemption, upcoming sets, along with usually he gets some kind of a opinion or take that he puts in there, and then he'll cover some of the decks that have been doing well in recent major tournaments or stuff from Magic Online. He'll cover some 5.0 deck lists and just kind of give you some ideas to work with. And then what's interesting is he'll also give a kind of a snapshot of some of the staple cards in each format and what's going on with their prices, so you can just kind of see how the format is doing in general, which is pretty good to know. You definitely want to keep an eye out. For example, I strongly suggest against investing in vintage cards. It's just been absolutely tragic what's going on with the Power 9. You can get a Mox Sapphire, that's right, one of the original Power 9. A Mox Sapphire online, you can get it for $20.60 or 20.6 tickets, which is just a joke. And when these originally debuted, they were worth a lot more than that, and they've just kind of been trending down ever since. And like this last week you got an 87-cent bump, but it's really just still not worth messing around with vintage cards. Really, even Legacy's not where you want to be. There's only a few formats that you really want to mess with at this point as far as investing goes, and that's Standard, Modern, and Pauper. I'm kind of taking a wait and see approach as far as 1v1 Commander goes, but one of the things you definitely need to do and keep an eye on is you definitely need to go to Magic Online's leagues, and from time to time you just need to take a look and see what the activity looks like. And right now you'll see that the active players in the Commander 1v1 league is 78 players. That's a joke, folks. That is a league that's just not getting there. If you look at Pauper, which is not necessarily a format that a lot of people take seriously, but there's currently 573 people. Again, I'm recording this on June the 15th, 2017. Pauper is just destroying Commander as far as the amount of people that are participating. in that league. 573 to 79. You go to Legacy, you're looking at 323 people. Again, Pauper is not quite at double the amount of players as Legacy, but not far off either. Then you get into Modern, and Modern has 2 active leagues, a friendly and a competitive league. You've got over 700 in the friendly league and almost 700 in the competitive, so Modern is actually the most popular format right now. However, you got to take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, because while the combined standard leagues do have approaching 700 players, only as many as just the friendly Modern league right now. One of the things to take into account is that these standard leagues just reset yesterday, so they're going to be ticking up in the amount of people that are actively involved in the leagues. These leagues just reset yesterday because of the ban with Aetherworks Marvel, and so it's worth kind of keeping an eye on that. I don't think Standard's actually doing that bad. In fact, I anticipate Standard should be doing a little bit better than it was doing. My prediction would be that more people are going to be playing because of the Aetherworks Marvel ban, not less. At any rate, the point is, Pauper, Modern, and Standard are really where you want to be for speculations. So, anyway, let's actually go ahead and go to Making Moves, our Making Moves segment. And today, let's take a look at a Pauper card. This really a solid card to go ahead and pick up. So today we're talking about Preordain. So what's up with Preordain? What makes this card interesting as far as a spec? Right now it's at 44 cents as far as the goldfish pricing. Now if we utilize some of these other resources I was just talking about, we can go to MTGO library. This is absurd. It's clocking in prices at 82 cents, so that's just ridiculous. We can go check Goat Bots. It's telling us that we're gonna have to pay 51 cents. That's stupid. Alright, so let's see what else we've got. Okay, now we're getting reasonable. Card Hoarder, 37 cents. Now we are talking, folks. 37 cents there. And then 37 cents at MTGO Traders. Cardbot is saying 35 cents. That's where we want to be. So let's go back to our chart on MTGO Goldfish here. And if you look at this, you can really see that, this card has been spiking over $1, crashing back down somewhere in the, the 30-cent range, spiking back up to nearly $1, crashing to 40 cents, spiking over $1, crashing to 30 cents, spiking up over $1. Now, I don't ever like to make moves just based on charting. So, with Preordain, we can also go and see what's up as far as the metagame goes. And so we go to the Pauper Metagame, and we're going to see that this is a card that is a staple 4 of in one of the top decks in the format. The other interesting thing about Preordain is it's only actually available online from 2 particular sets. So you've got, 3 sets. Commander 2015, Dual Decks Venser vs. Koth, and then Magic 2011. There really isn't that much Commander and Dual Decks product floating around on Magic Online. So really its supply was mostly driven by Magic 2011. It's been a while, so there's not a whole boatload of supply on Preordain, and it's just a good, efficient card that is a staple in one of the top decks. And it's also played in some other decks that are, there in the metagame doing something. And if you just consider how cheap it is as a staple card, and you're going to notice over time when we look at this kind of stuff that Pauper cards in general, they just tend to be very volatile. And I'm not 100% on why that is. Maybe there's a lot of Pauper players that like to buy decks and then sell them and try out different things, and so there's just a lot of cyclical up and downs. One thing you have to be very careful about with Pauper cards, though, is the spreads are absolutely terrible between the price that you're going to pay at retail and the buy list pricing. There's a 43% spread on this card, which is absolutely atrocious. But, if we can actually ride this card from, picking it up at around 35 cents, ride it up to $1.30, you're still going to be able to get in for some profit even with these atrocious margins. So let's go ahead and go online and buy a few copies. Let's just see if this pricing is accurate, because the way that bots work, sometimes the prices that you'll see that are being shown on their websites are actually a little bit behind, because these bots actively update their prices all the time. So let's see how much CardBot actually has. Alright, so 37 cents, so it's up 2 cents from the price it was showing, but this is still actually, 37 cents is still actually, you know, pretty close to what we were seeing on the goldfish pricing. It's still going to be probably tied as the cheapest price. We saw 37 cents from card hoarders, so we're going to go ahead and pick up some copies of Preordain, and we're going to sell these in a few days for a profit. And I would say at this point, you know, it's probably worth buying these, and you're going to see if we go back to buy more that the more these copies we buy, these bots are pretty smart. They're going to adjust their prices. They're not going to let us just buy out every single copy that they have at the same price. So we're going to go back and we're going to buy another 4 copies, and you know, they've already bounced their price up to 41 cents. So before I buy any more copies at CardBot, I would first want to look around and check other bots, you know, check out card hoarders and see if I can get some copies over there. And if for some reason it looks like card hoarders, let's see, there we go, card hoarder, looks like there's no S. So we're going to go ahead and see where card hoarders is at. I don't know, with the new trade update that they added to the game, it's acting a little bit buggy, but you just got to be patient, and you should still be able to get your trades to go through. Just kind of give it a little bit. And yeah, there we go. So let's go ahead and see what we've got here as far as pricing. 41 cents. So that may be where the market is across the board. I'm going to check MTGO traders and see if they can compete with maybe just a little bit cheaper price. But you know, normally I would hope that it wouldn't go straight from, you know, from 37 cents all the way up to, you know, a 4-cent jump. Usually it's a little more gradual with these commons, and you could get, you know, several more play sets on the way up to 40 cents. But everybody seems to be stuck on 41. So, you know, it's fine. We're still going to make a little bit on this, and so I'm going to go ahead and pick up a few more copies. I'll probably, since the price is bumping up so fast, I'm not going to be able to get as many of these as I want. One other thing you can also do, it doesn't always get you anywhere, but you can actually just search for a card on the forums and just kind of see if anybody's selling. Here you can see there's a human selling Preordain for 75 cents, so you know, forget about that nonsense. Doesn't look like. And also, it's also worth checking bots. Sometimes, even if their prices don't look good on their site, like Goat Bots right now is indicating they're selling Preordain for 51 cents, but if you actually go to their site and check it out, or I'm sorry, if you actually go to their bot and check it out, we might actually find out that it's maybe not that expensive. Maybe it is, but there's usually little discrepancies between their online pricing applications and what's actually in the shop. But this time it's accurate, 51 cents. I'm not really interested in that, so I'm just going to go back to CardBot and just buy up copies until I get to 45 cents, and once we get there, I'm just going to stop, and I'll pick up more copies if the price falls again. If the price continues to trend upward after this, then that's it, I'm done. So it's 47 cents. I'm not going to pay that. So looks like I got a couple play sets. I'd love to get a lot more. I'd buy up to, I don't know, I'd probably buy up to 100 copies if I could get in at, the price point that I want. But it just doesn't look like that's going to happen right now. So basically, we're going to go ahead and just shift gears a little bit and take a look at the Pauper Metagame just a little bit more. A lot of people aren't really familiar with this format, but it's a format that's a little more budget than the other formats. So these deck lists, 55 tickets, 113 tickets, 42 tickets, 54 tickets, 49 tickets, you're kind of seeing, with the exception of the number 2 deck in the format, which is blue-red, which is 113 tickets. Most of these decks clock in around 50 tickets. Stompy's the number 1 deck in the format right now, but not by much. It's just barely out of blue-red. Then we have Affinity, Koldatha-Boros, Boggles. So, and we got some more decks, and the metagame is mostly, plus or minus. There's a lot of very competitive decks around 50 tickets, which if you go check out Standard, you're going to find that the decks there are going to be, look, this Teamer Marvel 108 tickets, that's not a real thing. This deck has been banned and doesn't exist, so don't believe that nonsense. Teamer Energy, that's a real deck. 132 tickets, that's a great deal for a Standard deck. 132 tickets is awesome. Green Black Energy, 198 tickets. Mardu Vehicles, 300 tickets. Mono Black Zombies, 154 tickets. Black Green Delirium, 370 tickets. And, Red Green Pummeler, 87 tickets. That's a steal of a deal for a Standard deck. And then, of course, we go to Modern as the other big format we're going to look at. And, Grixis Death Shadow, 560 tickets. Affinity, 310 tickets. Eldrazi Tron, 498 tickets. And you get the idea that both Modern and Standard are going to be substantially more expensive than Pauper. And the interesting thing to pay attention to is that when you go to the leagues, which are what really drive a lot of the economy online, the Friendly Standard League, the Friendly Modern League, and the Friendly Pauper League, and yes, even the Friendly Commander League, they all pay out the same prizes. That means your input cost to go grind prizes in a Pauper League is going to be much cheaper than any other format, but you can still get the same prizes, which means Pauper is the ultimate grinder league. If you're a grinder and you want to try to battle your way into making some profit in this game, if you want to just build a massive collection from nothing, it's going to take a lot of grinding, but there's a lot of value in Pauper. So you got to keep that in mind, that watching Pauper is a place where you can make money speccing on Pauper cards, but you got to be careful. The thing I was talking about earlier definitely applies as far as the margins on commons is absolutely terrible. So you got to price in that when you go to sell your specs, you're going to get taken to town on the margins. So, for example, today's biggest mover is Utopia Sprawl. Let's take a look at here and look at this 42% spread between the buy list price and the retail price. That's just absurd. Now, if you go to Standard and look at some of the staple mythic cards, let's look at Heart of Kiran. It's doing pretty well today. I don't know where we're at. Look at this 3% spread on Heart of Kiran, one of the big time Standard tournament staples. There's a 3% spread between its online retail price of $18.58 and the buy list at $18.10. And this is what makes speccing on Standard cards very interesting, because the price differential on a lot of them between what you're going to pay to buy the card and what you're going to turn around and sell the card at, these margins are very low. Now, don't get me wrong, you're going to see some rare cards where the margins are going to be bigger, and the tightest margins are usually going to be on the mythics. So, for example, Fatal Push isn't even rare, it's an uncommon, but it still has a 5% spread, which is a pretty tight spread, especially for an uncommon. But let's look at let's look at Tireless Tracker. That's a good one we can check, and yep, 5% spread. So even on a rare card, we're seeing a very tiny spread. So this is one of the big upsides to speccing on Standard cards. The hard thing is with Standard, because the pricing on Standard is definitely going to jump around a lot more. When you're looking at Modern, Pauper, even Legacy, the prices of the cards is more stable because the formats are more stable. In Standard, you have a new set coming out every 3 months that's got a reasonable chance to spice things up. The ban lists have been more active as far as ban updates. So you see a lot more volatility, and it can be harder to predict what's going to do well and what's going to drive up in price and what's going to fall down. Now, Modern is actually a little bit like Pauper in the sense that you can definitely see some spreads that are really not great. Like here we have a 29% spread, which is worse than what we were looking at some of the Standard cards we looked at, but better than Pauper. So, and that's fairly representative of Modern. Although here you go, look at this, 62% spread on a Dragon Skull Summit. But you know what, this is actually a little bit anomalous. Anytime you have a card that just skyrockets in price in a short time, usually the retail prices go up a lot faster than the buy list prices, and that creates a big spread on some cards that are just rocketing up really quickly. But if we look at something like Mox Opal is an example of a really expensive card. Here we have a 12% spread, which is a much bigger spread than you'd usually see on a mythic staple standard card. But again, this is a much smaller spread than what you're going to see with a lot of Pauper cards. So as far as the spreads go, which is really actually important and not something you'll always hear a lot of people giving advice on specs, you definitely want to watch these spreads, because if you think about it, if there's a 12% spread on a modern card, but a 50% spread on a Pauper card, that makes a huge difference in terms of how much a card has to gain in value before you can profitably sell it, even if you get in cheap. But the sweet thing about Pauper, as far as speccing in, is it's an eternal format, so it's not like with standard where there's this clock and you have to beat the clock. If the clock runs out on you, your cards just become worthless. And that clock, of course, is rotation. Whenever cards rotate out of standard, they're going to take a hit. So these formats that are more eternal oriented, like Pauper, and they change more slowly, it means that you've got a long clock where a card doesn't necessarily have to move right away in your favor. And if you see a pattern in one of these more eternal formats, it's much more likely to continue to repeat uninterrupted. So Preordain is a great example of a Pauper card where, yeah, the spread is pretty atrocious, but you get in cheap and you just follow the pattern. When this thing pops over $1, I'll probably be able to sell my copies around 60 cents at some point. If I'm getting in for around 40 cents, I'll make 20 cents a copy. Not that exciting unless you can get a lot of copies, but I'm going to keep watching, and if the price keeps trending down and I can pick up some more copies below 40 cents or in that range, I'd love to pick up another 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 copies, as many as I can get with a low cost basis. So that's what I'm after. So to wrap up the show today, I just want to give a shout out to one of our big supporters. It turns out our last video, folks, I don't want to blow you away here, but I think we got as many as 5 or 6 people that checked out our last video. And it turns out that one of the individuals that checked out our last video was actually a chicken. Somewhere there's a chicken on a computer with a keyboard watching this show. Now, I've heard through Facebook that it's actually a genetically modified chicken that smokes copious quantities of ganja. I'm not here to cast any judgments or aspersions, but that sounds like a pretty baked chicken to me. So, baked chicken, we appreciate your support. I hope that these speculative targets, this preordained shenanigans that we're working on here, I hope it helps to make you enough tickets to help diminish some of your costs of drafting. I don't know if you people know this, but apparently baked chickens love to draft MTGO. So we'd like to just give a shout out to you, baked chicken. Hopefully today's Magic the Gathering online speculation, economics, and finance report will help you stack up a fat stack of tickets. Thank you, and you guys have a great day.